This is a screenshot from my PhD research, which was a community-created blog about disability sport. So I was working with a team of 5 Canadian Paralympians, and what we would do is every week one of us would write a post about a different topic, sort of a hot topic or a debate within disability sport. We would write a blog post, and then we would all use our social networks to try to get readers onto the site, but more importantly, talking about that issue in the comment section of the blog, on Twitter, on Facebook. I was collecting those conversations. That was part of my data collection, but it was also sort of, the idea was to involve para-athletes in discussions about policy. One of the things that, like I said, when I first started this and said, I'm going to be communicating with participants on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, I sort of got this, we're not ready to handle that. One of the things I had to convince my ethics board at the University of British Columbia about was that participants would get all the same information they would get if I were interviewing them. So the way I did that was quite simply in my ethics, well, a couple things. First of all, when people went onto the blog and went down to the bottom and read through and there was a comment section, they would get a pop-up box saying, this is a research project. Any comments you put in here are being collected. And then it would link them to the About This blog page. And it would send them there, and that would have all the information for participants. Who am I as a researcher? How do you contact me? How do you contact my supervisor? Any questions you would have about how the information was being stored, used, things like that. So all the standard forms that have been submitted to ethics were on the blog, and people had to click that, yes, I accept that. And then they also had options of, do I want to include my name in the comment? Do I want to comment anonymously? Things like that. In terms of the ethics, quite simply, letters and posters will be circulated to local organizations. Sorry, this is actually for the digital storytelling project, but an online version of the poster will be created. So the link to the poster can be sent to organizations. So essentially what I'm saying is that here is the poster, and I'll go put it up in sports halls and community centers and stuff like that, but I'm creating an online version. And to create an online version, and I include a copy in the ethics, what I used was a website called TAC. And the reason I like TAC is that it's when you only need one page, it's a great website. So you don't want to spend the time creating a whole website for your project. You don't have the budget, you don't have the expertise, and you frankly don't need a website. You just need a one-page poster to advertise an event or a project. TAC lets you do that really quickly. So tac.com, you go and create an account. It's free. And then it gives you a couple templates. And I think it was originally designed to advertise things like garage sales and cake sales. But like I said, it's when you don't have a website of your own, you can create a page really quickly. You type in all the same information that's on your poster or on your ethics forms, and it stands alone. It has a comment feature at the bottom, but you can disable that. So it basically just becomes an online poster. And then it has all the share buttons. So what I did for the storytelling project is I created this poster, then I went on to Twitter and started sharing with the Leicester Football Association, with GB Sport, with all the different associations who might have clientele, partners who would be interested in the research project. It was, I mean, I wasn't doing a huge project, but it was effective. I got participants via this method. It also gave me something that I could really quickly just add to the bottom of my emails, tell, you know, meet someone at a conference, I want to tell you about my work, send them that link. It was a one-page online presence. So if you're not doing a project that's quite as extensive with the budget and the time as the de facto project or something like that, but you still want some simple website, this was a good one. Yeah, the other thing is that Becky mentioned the Leader Project and how they put videos online and interviews and stuff online. One thing I'm actually exploring a bit in my research is this idea of confidentiality and anonymity in research more generally. In my field, you know, I was quite trained that you always maintain participants' confidentiality and anonymity, and that's that's part of doing research. Now I'm moving into this more participatory, community-based research, where I'm working with people quite publicly, and we can't remain anonymous. The nature of the work is to involve the communities and let people know who's involved and stuff like that. So it was a really interesting experience for me to walk out of a workshop, a digital workshop, where I've done everything to maintain, to basically not reveal who the group is that I'm working with. And then I walk out of the workshop and realize that the whole time I've been in the workshop, they've been tweeting photos of me, right? So after several conversations with them, with my supervisor, we realized that it's when a community wants to be recognized for their contribution, for their participation in the research, that is actually permissible, and in some cases is part of having an ethical relationship with research participants. Obviously, this will not apply to every field, but in the type of work I'm doing, the idea of sharing a video that someone created or sharing a video of someone's interview is actually not as big a deal. It was me who was making a big deal about it. The participants, quite all right with it. Part of this has to do with how familiar the online world is to many of the people we're working with, right? The kids I'm working with already have Facebook pages, they already have Twitter accounts, they have YouTube channels, they're sharing stuff online. So one more video of them online isn't a huge concern. However, at the same time, part of the digital workshops has now been a discussion about online privacy, online safety, and, you know, in your digital video, what did you share? Did you use your first and last name? Did you show photos of your school? Did you have photos of other people? So we're having conversations about digital security, digital safety, anonymity, confidentiality, but I'm also not assuming that everything I put up online has to be anonymous. Yeah, and also realizing that when you start, it becomes very difficult. Becky's done a good job with that one project of splitting out, but the more you try to integrate these different platforms and leverage these different platforms, the more difficult it becomes to stay anonymous. So in some cases you have to decide, you know, exactly where you're going. It's a conversation you have to have with your research team, with your participants, but it is changing a bit, so.
I actually met Becky at a conference where I was presenting, sorry I didn't take that either, my work, and I used the video that you're about to see to explain my research in a nutshell, because as you may have noticed I tend to blabber a bit when I'm talking. So I was trying to look at ways to represent my research in a quite sort of short space of time, getting the information across succinctly without the worry of me kind of going majorly over time. So I started for most of my projects now of creating a kind of video presentation that I can use at conferences or in team meetings or in many different ways to kind of represent my research succinctly. And yeah, so this is one of the videos I created, which just talks about the food studies that I was just presenting. So these are the wearable cameras that people have to wear. This is what they look like. And you can kind of talk over them. These are the study packs we gave out, and talks about our participants. And this is the data that we were getting from it. I wish I'd made this in advance of recruiting for my study, because I think this would have been quite a good video to use in recruitment stuff. And what we were doing was we were showing photos to people and then getting them to reflect on it. So the data we were collecting was actually verbal data. So I made that video, and I also made one for another project that I was doing that I was presenting them both in one presentation. It didn't take me very long to do it. I did it in iMovie. I mean, the nature of my research, I suppose, is it's quite visual, so it was fairly easy for me to get some images together. You could do it as a PowerPoint presentation, as we've already seen. You can do kind of storytelling quite easily. And I've used it numerous times now to as a sort of ready-made thing that I can get out at the beginning of all my presentations about this project. So I definitely recommend trying to do this. This I did myself. I have experience of doing a more complicated video, which I actually paid a production team to come in and create for me. I will skip through all of the branding. Yeah, so I did it at the Galleries of Justice. Oh, it's not gonna play. Oh. Yeah, so it's basically, in this case, we got in it's my acting skills. We got in a production team to come through and film the video for us. And this is what kind of got me started in creating these presentations. I was actually given a budget in the project to make this video, which I used to, which I obviously couldn't use for most of my projects, but I think you can achieve a fairly similar thing yourself with some videos that you've recorded on your camera. You don't need a production team and a professional video recording thing to do it, but you know, it's a really good resource to have, and I've used it many times. So yeah, I definitely recommend, if you're ever given a budget to do such a thing, to do it. It does normally play better than that. I don't know why it's being really weird.
We'll share the video.
Yeah, yeah, it's on Vimeo. So, yeah, so I think that's my section done.